And we are back.
We are.
Welcome back to One More Tune. We're going to do a bit of a catch-up today because it's been a little bit of time since we last recorded.
It's
I've been away for a bit.
Yeah.
And I am now back. Been back for about 3 weeks. It won't be any time difference, I don't think, when we're releasing stuff.
No.
But it is like 4 months since
The
we last
magic
recorded.
of cinema.
Yeah. Cinema.
We just noticed that Harry's tan's got significantly darker.
Oh no, we've just put the saturation up in the edit afterwards.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, some good times away. It all went by way too quickly, and now it feels like I haven't been away at all. But that's kind of how it goes, I think.
Depressed to be back.
The gigs are good fun.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, while you've been, away having fun in the sun, I've been dying. So, I've been not well.
So you've not been gigging for you're back into it now, but you haven't been gigging for a little bit.
Almost a month.
You're off for a month?
Almost a month, yeah. 3.5 weeks. Yeah, so we've both been having time off in very different circumstances.
Yeah, you in the sick bed.
Yeah, very much.
What caused this, Connor?
A mixture of things. First of all, I was actually sick. I did get
You're like norovirus or something.
I did get a chest infection, which is going about. Everybody's getting chest infections.
Yeah.
Everyone's coughing the guts up. It's the time of year. However, unfortunately, I may have took a bit too much on. And there's a lesson to be learned here. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the week before I got sick, I was supposed to do like 3 gigs on the Thursday. I did 3 gigs on the Friday. I did 2 gigs on the Saturday and 2 gigs on the Sunday. Then from the second gig, I was supposed to go home, get my equipment, go and jump on a plane to fly to Spain to gig twice, like 2 slots in Spain. And then on the Wednesday, I was coming back. The flight got in at like 8 p.m. and I was on stage at 10 back in Liverpool.
Oh my God.
So, as you can imagine, I then got the chest infection.
At what point? Okay, so that is an insane run of about a week with 2 country changes in there.
Yeah.
Alex my partner always gets mad at me if we are away or there's something that, we take some time off for, and I look in the calendar and see when we come home, and if there is an opportunity to work that night or the next day or very quickly after we get home, there is a chance that there will be a gig that pops up in our shared 100%. Calendar. There is every chance of that.
100%.
That happened the same with coming back home from traveling.
Yep.
Got back about midnight on a Tuesday night and had a full-day wedding on the Thursday, and I hadn't been playing for 3 months.
See, that's insane because it's a wedding. That's a lot more high
If
pressure.
you had a nice chilled pub or bar or restaurant gig as your first gig back, maybe easy. After a first weekend of not doing anything, that would be ideal. But no, I stuck a wedding in on the second day. Well, not even. I literally got back basically the Wednesday morning, just 1 in the morning. And then wedding the next day. So that's fun. But at what point in your insane run that you were trying, this marathon run that you were trying to do, did you get the first tickle? Was it before? And you said you started on the Thursday with 3 gigs.
Yeah, but I was playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as well. I just wasn't including that because it was too much to talk about. The start of the week, I knew I wasn't getting well. When you just get that rundown.
Everything's a little bit harder. You wake up a bit groggy.
Like the energy's gone. And I knew I was getting not well, but I was just like, look at me, Dad. I can't get not well. I was like, I've got too many commitments. So herein lies the problem, and why it was so bad is because rather than me doing the sensible thing and just being like, I'm getting not well, there's nothing I can do. And there's a lesson to be learned here, for anybody who is a singer / artist, whatever. listen to your body,
Yeah. It's so hard, though, because we have to plan into the future, and you have to plan, some weddings years in advance, literally 2 years in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your body doesn't know that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think, but, I mean, we have obviously spoken about this, but personal fitness as well. Like, obviously you do your running, and I'm trying to get into it now as well, because like building that endurance, that stamina, that kind of it's really big,
Yeah, and it's just like the one thing that I've had to be so conscious with over like the whole time I've been gigging. Really, is like a lot of the time you're in venues where there's food and drink and stuff, and because you're playing and creating a good atmosphere and it's fun and stuff, people might buy you drinks or you get free drinks from the bar or whatever.
100%.
It's so easy to just kind of have 2 pints every gig that you play.
Yep.
It's without even thinking about it.
Yep. I know.
And then when you think how often you're gigging, it becomes like so much more that you don't even clock that you're either drinking or the calories or whatever it is. So I've one of my things since I got back is when I have a stretch where there would be normally a meal in between gigs and stuff or whatever.
Yep.
I try and always do a little packed lunch myself now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm like treating myself like a little kid going to school, and I make myself a little butty, and I've got a little chocolate bar and a drink or whatever. It's
such a big part. Like, and I've found the temptation as well is if you've got multiple gigs in a day, sometimes you're tempted to go, I'll just go for a McDonald's or something. Yeah,
I've been burning loads of calories. I've got loads of free space. Yeah. I'll be fine. I'll burn this off afterwards anyways later.
I got into a point one time just before I got sick.
It's when you look in the footwell of your passenger seat in the car and it's like, there are 5 Mackey's cups there. That must be 5 different meals.
I looked at my analytics thing on the app for Halifax for me bank.
Oh, right, okay.
And
fast food
the way
spending percentage
it breaks,
and stuff.
Like you can break, you certain apps you can get the breakdown.
You're spending into categories,
your insights. And it was like, I remember seeing, and it was like fast food in like a month, and it was like £900.
Oh, God,
and I was like,
insane. And I was like
your
rent, but on Mackey's.
Yeah, and I was just literally looking like, how many of these can I have as a business expense? How many
you have to look at the time it was, and if it was just before, in between, or just after a run of gigs.
How much of this can I write off? Because this is ridiculous. So obviously that was the month before I got not well. So then it's all coming together now. So
you'd Mackey'd yourself into oblivion.
So I obviously got very not well because I'd been running myself down. I'd been taking on way too much than you can handle, which is another thing to be said for longevity of this career.
Yeah.
If you want to be in the game for life and you want to have a good, sustainable career out of it, you really cannot be doing endless 4-5 gigs a day every day or whatever. Because
it's really hard because that does feel like success. When you were that booked 100%. Up, you're probably absolutely flying.
And you got the money streaming in. You feel like the person because you're just going gig to gig to gig.
You're playing
crowds,
so many places. Loads of the staff will get to know you and stuff, 100%. And you do feel like the man about town and all that. Mm-hmm. But you do just burn out. You just burn out.
100%. And it's maybe great when you're younger. The older that you get, and
you get a bit more responsibility.
Yeah,
and stuff,
I'm by no means old, but when you cross, the 3,
when you're not your early 20s. I'm nearly 30, so
same. So when you're coming towards 30, I've found that there is a significant drop in when I was 18 and I was doing these gigs.
You have so much more bounce back ability.
I literally could go out and do 4 gigs in a day, and my voice was fine, and I could have 2 hours sleep and still be I have full
ready to
energy.
Go. It's mad. It's not the same, but it's kind of similar. At that age, you can definitely do 2 or 3 nights out drinking or whatever. In uni, I think the first 2 weeks of our time in Freshers, we did, because we went to Newcastle, right? Gateshead, not Gateshead, Northumbria Uni.
Yeah.
What their term started a week before ours, so their Freshers was a week before ours.
Right.
But we went up to Newcastle in the time for that Freshers and then had our Freshers. So we had 2 weeks back to back, and it's one of those stories. The fish might have been that small, but I caught a fish this big. in my memory, we went out every single night for both Northumbria freshers and our freshers, and that's 18. You can get away with it. You can do
That's it. That's what I mean.
So much more boundless energy.
Yeah, it's insane. But as I say, now I'm starting to realise, and I think that was the big warning sign for me. Because like I say, yes, I did have a chest infection. However, it wasn't the chest infection why I was off. It was the chest infection obviously like made me not well, but that just basically was the sort of, that was the kind of the final straw in the sense of, I think for a while I'd already been run down, and now I'm speaking to a few friends and a few people, like they've said to me, like, we could tell that you were like basically about to burn out, because they were like, you were
on your stool and the stool was wobbling.
Yeah,
and they were like, no, not again.
You could say that. But yeah, no, literally. So, a couple of friends I spoke to, they said like, we were even thinking like when you were telling us about your schedule,
that's a lot,
crazy. And so yeah, so basically, so what happened? Obviously, I got not well. This was at the beginning of the week. Then I just kept trying to push it, and I was doing more and more gigs because I didn't want to let people down. And I ended up pushing myself to the point where at the weekend, obviously I was due to go to Spain. At the weekend, I got to the point where I was doing gigs, and I'm trying not to be too graphic, but like I was getting to the point where like I was.
Well, you're singing. If you think that you try and sing, anyone, even if you don't sing, if you think about trying to sing when you've got a cough,
but it was that bad. That like the cough was like quite bad to the point where it was
like hacking stuff up,
triggering me to like throw up. And I was at the point where I was doing gigs and in the break having to go to the toilet, throwing up because I was coughing. No. And that's
Mate, at what point you must have gone, this is really bad, this.
It was. But then I'd get back on stage and the adrenaline would kick in. I'd be like, right, you know what I mean? And so basically it was
You're not going to war for
I know. But it was I know, but it was not good. But like I reached a point where I was like, my brain sort of was like, okay, this is the line now. Like, you are gonna be seriously not well. So anyway, it got to the point where unfortunately I did reach a point where I just couldn't do it, and I had to message everyone, and I had to say, I'm really not well, sorry to let you down. And what made it worse was this was Paddy's weekend, by the way. So like it was really busy, everyone was relying on me, and it was such a hard position to be in. But another lesson that was learned is like, always just put yourself first, like when it comes to health and things, like, because health is just like, you never want to let anyone down. Like, that's like a really bad thing, and your reputation means a lot, but most people will understand if you really are not well and stuff.
Yeah, if it's out of character that you quite last minute need to get a gig covered.
If you're doing it every 2 weeks,
it's obvious,
like, sorry, I've got another cough.
My dog ate my homework, all that kind of stuff. But if you build up that relationship over time, people, it still happens though that you can have a relationship with someone and you have to cancel last minute because something comes up or whatever, and they don't react in the best way.
No, and it can't,
and that is difficult.
You've got to understand from both angles. I understand from their point of view,
feeling let down, 100%.
But like, it is, that's where it becomes difficult. And I will say, like, I've been saying this now for a while. I've said it to most of the people who book me for bars and things. It's a big reason why I'm trying to lean more into the private party scene and the wedding scene and things, which I have been actively doing. And a big reason for that is there's a lot less chance of letting people down, because if you're playing pubs, restaurants and things, obviously the fees are a bit lower because it's a public gig. You're having to do a lot more shows a week to make the money you need to make to get through. Whereas with these private bookings, you can go, okay, I'm just going to play 2 or 3 this week. And you're probably not going to burn out because you're doing a lot less. You're a lot easier on your body. You can focus a lot more on your health, your mental health, all that. And second of all as well is like, I just think in general, it's just easier on your body, your mind, everything.
Yeah, you get you tend to get a decent bit more for a private party than you would for standard pubs and clubs and stuff. And I guess that's around exclusivity, and it's, you know, often a birthday party or an anniversary or whatever it could be. So there's a little bit more like, you know, expectation and pressure on the party to go well and stuff. Whereas, you know, for the pubs and clubs, there's often times where I deliberately, if it's a Friday night or Saturday night, try and take over. That's why I think that I've been booked. But
100%.
I think there are some places where it's also appropriate for it to just be like some good live entertainment. People can pay attention if they want to. They don't have to.
100%. Yeah, depends on the vibe. I play a very wide mixture. There's some places where I go and I know from the off you've got to be, you know, really upbeat.
Yeah, 110% energy.
Exactly, which is fine. And I don't mind doing them gigs. I love them, as a matter of fact. But my sort of MO at the moment is to try and space those out between, like, you know, that, but also like afternoon drink ceremonies at weddings and things.
They're a lot less physically demanding.
So I'm thinking, like, just for the sake of, like, you know, it's kind of like, I guess, in a way, like a sports athlete would have to pick and choose the training days, pick and choose the battles. You've got, you know, there's going to be some ones that you've got to be 110%, as you say. But then, if you know you've got one of them coming up at the weekend and it's very important, don't then the 2 days before then book
Slam
these
it with
really, you know, heavy other ones.
Yeah.
But I have got a bit of a crazy story that I'll probably get in trouble for saying, but it's fine. It's fine.
If you need to censor some names or something, that's fine.
I won't name any names. And to be honest, the person that is in question here, it's probably like a very burnt bridge, so it's
okay.
Fine.
All right.
Okay.
Gossip corner.
Connor's
gossip corner.
This is very useful advice, I think, to musicians and things, and it gives good perspective on things, even for me, who's been doing this for 10 plus years now, which makes me feel old to say. But anyway, but like, it shows that these things do happen, and if other people feel upset about these situations, it's good to know that it happens to everyone. Yeah. So, okay, I was supposed to be playing a gig a few weeks ago, right? I won't say where. It was a pub, right? It was it was quite a busy pub, but not in a busy city, right? It was outside of the city, but it was quite a busy pub, right? That's all I'm saying. That's as much information as I'm going to say.
To figure out what it is.
And the thing is, right, is like, I've got to be careful what I say because it's fairly recent, but like I say, it is important.
Oh, don't worry about it. This episode might come out at a random... It is Thursday the 17th of April as we film this. You know who you are.
But anyway, so essentially what had happened was I was playing a wedding, right? Okay, I don't want to be too specific, but let's just say that I was playing a wedding at 7. Like, I was supposed to be playing a wedding in the evening. You know what I mean? Doing the first dance, and I was doing the father-daughter dance, right? Yeah. And I was supposed to be, let's say, playing the wedding at 7 to 9. These times are made up, but let's say I was playing the wedding at 7 to 9. And then I was like playing, let's say, an 11 till 1 at a bar, right? So I had a good amount of time between them, right? The travel distance was like 35, 40 minutes. So like easy an hour to spare, blah, blah, right? So anyway, I get to the wedding, and on the day, everything fine, all confirmed. Get to the wedding on the day, and they told me, we're really sorry.
How late are they running?
The officiant for the wedding was like delayed, coming from a different place.
Coming from another wedding.
So anyway, coming from another.
You just had a pub gig before.
Yeah. So anyway, so basically the officiant was late. It put the wedding ceremony back by 2 hours, right? 2 hours, which delayed everything for the day. So at this point, I'm like, okay, it's a wedding. I can't let them down. I can't really say, I'm sorry, I can no longer play your wedding on the day because I've got a pub gig, right? Like, in my mind, that's wrong. You can't do that to someone. It's the most special day of their life, and it's not their fault that the officiant was late, basically. So anyway,
I'm going to listen to this and tell you what I would do in the same situation.
Okay.
Because I don't know. It might not be the same
So
answer.
it's more when you hear the fallout of what happened. The repercussions, I just want people to know that this does happen to even like us, and things sometimes. But like, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, so it all got pushed like back. So I then immediately rings It's a very complicated setup. I rings the agency that booked me to play on this bar, right? And was like, I was like, listen, like this has happened. I'm at a wedding. I'm like literally already at the venue, like sort of at this point setting up. I've just found out everything's getting delayed. They're not even going to arrive here. And like for like another 2 hours, until like 2 hours late or whatever. So I told them. The agent then got back to me, which respectfully is understandable. They were just like, "Hi, Connor." They were like, "We're not going to be able to cover that. Like, sorry." And I was like, "Okay." Like at this point, I did give them a 3.5 to 4 hours notice, which isn't great. But that's
the longest notice you could have possibly given.
That was the only notice I got given. So anyway, I really spoke. I spoke to them, and I said, "Look, if I get somebody like to cover me, can I do that?" And they were like, at first they said no, and then
because agency they'll have their musicians.
Then they were like, okay, yes. Unfortunately, it being a Saturday night, which it was, I couldn't cover it.
That's why the short notice is an issue.
And at this point, I'm still at a wedding, so I can't just be, basically doing this.
Put your looper on, be singing, and also like dropping messages.
Honestly, I was almost like doing that, but I didn't. Obviously, professionalism. Yeah. But like anyway, so long, like, breeze over a couple of hours of conversation back and forth. Essentially, couldn't find anybody. I was like, look, I'm in this position. What do? I got to let the wedding down, or I've got, like, I can't just leave the wedding at the same time. And I don't want to let a bar down a Saturday night. So it's a hard position to be in. Now, maybe in retrospect, I shouldn't have booked both in the same day. But the thing is, you
kind of thought that the wedding was done early.
Yeah, exactly. I had
11 o'clock.
More than enough. I had more than enough time.
Yeah, and there's different times where you feel like you need to take a bit more work on, or
100%. Yeah. So anyway, the point was that basically I didn't manage to get anybody, unfortunately, in time. Now this is where it gets like, honestly, this is what you have to deal with, unfortunately, sometimes in our industry. So, despite the fact that I let them know what was going on 3.5 hours ago, I don't know whether the agency relayed that onto the venue or not, right? The venue was then messaging me and calling me non-stop while I'm on stage at the wedding.
That would make me lose my... Not get angry, lose my shit, but like I'd panic so much in that moment.
So basically... Yeah, so they're ringing me, so I'm like, I can't answer because I'm playing at a wedding.
Oh, God.
So anyway,
so I was imagining someone fuming on the other end of the line. Like,
they then started messaging me like, where are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like...
Was that before your start time, or had the start time already elapsed?
This is like...
They're expecting to be setting up.
Probably like, maybe like around the exact start time. So anyway, so they're like, okay, like what's going on? Right, so... I'm sat there playing at the wedding, like, why haven't the agency that I told, like, 3.5 hours ago told the venue that this was going on? So anyway, basically, maybe they did, I don't know, and maybe they were just messaging me for whatever. So anyway, so long story short, I keep saying that, but it's not short, is it? But like,
just 26 minutes in.
This is so. Anyway, the point is that obviously I didn't manage to do it. I sent them a message when I got off the stage, the wedding, the venue this is, and I explained I was in an impossible situation. I was at a wedding. Things got delayed.
Even if you have a legitimate excuse, they might not even care.
So this is the thing, right? This is the kicker, right? So the next day, I didn't hear nothing back. The next day...
That night you text them and then they didn't reply?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
The next day, I had... a couple of DMs on Instagram when I was going to my next gig. So I pulled over, like, just to read, you know what I mean? Like, what? Because it was, like, really long messages. Not that I would have have pulled over if it was short messages. Anyway, don't use your phone and drive. It's not worth it. We need cars for our job. But anyway, so I pulled over to be like, what is it? Because he sent me a photo. And I'm like, what's a photo? So he sends me a photo and he says, I don't normally send this to people. He was like, but in this circumstance, I feel I want to show you this. So I was like, what the hell? So I goes on and it's like a graph. And it's, what this is going to be? It's the graph of the profits for the bar hour by hour. Yeah. So anyway, he basically, God. So he shows me like this graph and it's going like right down. But but the thing is, it really backfired on him because, so he sent me this graph and he's like, I just want you to know how disappointed I am and stuff. So I'm like, well, first of all,
you're not me dad.
First of all, look, yes, I have apologized many a time. It was like my fault, but also not. Like, it was an act of God.
Yeah, and you had gone down what you thought the channel was to get the information. I might have DM'd the venue directly as well.
Yeah. Maybe I should have done that. But I just was thinking, if an agency is booking for a venue, they're gonna actively be communicating with them.
One more link in the chain, isn't it?
But anyway, so they basically were like saying to me like, he was basically saying like, you've lost me like all this money and all that, right?
You owe us on our Saturday nightly take.
But this thing where it backfired on him. So on this graph that
it had the date
on this graph, it was all right, but it showed on this graph that he made like in a day, which is very insightful for me. I don't really know how much more.
What the take was for the bar?
Basically,
multiple grams.
It was showing that like basically it's like I don't want to say how much it is.
It's multiple grams.
That's personal.
For a decent venue that's busy on a Saturday night,
it was thousands.
Yeah,
and I'm then thinking to myself, hang on. So you mean to say that us musicians, when we're making you tens of thousands a pound, right? When we're playing, and now
you get the fee that we get,
and yet you not only pay us. Like, I can't obviously say because people know where it is, but like, let's say a sub £200 fee, right? Which also is delayed by 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, all the catches on it.
But he's then showing me like, but we actually take over the bar, like whatever, like bloody 20 grand or something, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm just
he's showing to you that without you playing, they lose this amount of money.
Yeah.
Which
so,
the reverse argument is when you play, they make that amount of money, and we get.
But the other thing that is very important for people to know about like things like this, and I'm very honestly like I know I sound like I'm probably going to lose every pub gig I've got now.
No. There's understanding that
100%.
Staffing costs, lighting costs,
listen,
all the food, everything costs.
I literally did say to the guy when I spoke to him, the owner, I said, look, I understand, like, this is your business, you've got a family to feed and stuff, and I get it, and I'm really sorry. I was in an impossible situation where I couldn't have walked out on a wedding, but I did everything that I could to rectify the situation. I'm really sorry. So, anyway, but an important thing that I have learned about bars and just things like that, right, is that, like, I've noticed this time and time again, and I think it's very important for people to understand, is that, like, basically, unfortunately, in this industry, you will have situations where bars will message you an hour before cancelling a gig with no repercussion and be like, oh, it's really quiet, we can't have you on, it's happened to me. But then if you cancel on them an hour before, it's like
the end of the world. You've betrayed them.
So it's very interesting. And to be honest, there's a lot of bars. Most of the bars I work with, luckily, are very greatly run. They're really good.
All right, you're trying to suck back up to everyone after being like, you pay me nothing.
What I'm saying is,
everyone I work with is great.
What I'm saying is, over the 10 years I've been doing this, obviously I've had bad experience with.
Yeah, you just stick around with the ones that are sound, don't you?
Exactly, you stick to the ones that you know have got your back a bit.
Yeah,
and I will say, like, what I have learned, especially with being not well for the past month, and obviously had to cancel a lot of gigs in advance. But if I'm not being well for a month, there's nothing I could do. Mm-hmm. I have sort of really learned that certain venues will be like, "Oh my god, we hope you're okay."
Yeah,
if they say,
everyone shows their true colours.
If we say, we hope you're okay. You know, if you can find a replacement, whatever, that'd be amazing. Like, massive shout outs. Actually, I'm going to name a name now because
wait. By you naming a name, that's you not naming a lot of other names.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm not going to.
You can if you want.
Okay, I'm not. But there's a specific bar that actually like a brewery, I guess. But anyway,
narrowing it down. If you're not a brewery, you were a dick to Connor when he was ill.
No. I'm not.
That's
saying,
what you said.
But there was a specific bar.
I'm basically trying to get you cancelled now. This is the game.
There's a specific bar that was unbelievably good. I thought I was going to be well enough to do a gig, and then I just wasn't well enough. Like, I had on standby in case a replacement. They were so good, and they understood because I'd not been well for a couple of weeks.
You flagged it and stuff,
I'd already told them I was on the fence, and honestly, they were so great about it. Those are the types of venues that now I'm better, I will happily prioritize gigs for.
Give
and things.
Loyalty to.
Yeah, 100%. But like, I've come to realize in the music game, as we know, just a lot of people really like look out for themselves. Can you hear that weird sound? Is that just me?
There's a little crackle.
Yeah.
Let's take a lovely, perfectly timed middle break.
Okay, yeah.
And have a look and see if we can tinker around with things. We'll be back in a second.
No problem, yeah.
All right, so we are back.
Yep.
We are back.
We've fixed the crackling noise.
Little cable change, little rearrange, a little T top up.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're back. So you were finishing a story about a venue where you were the last gig you were playing, you'd just come back off being ill.
Yeah.
And you had told them that you were ill, but you wanted to do the gig, or at least try to.
Yeah. So
did you do the gig?
No.
Oh.
Right. So, but this is what I was saying about good, like, really understanding venues. This venue in question were really amazing. You know, they knew I was reliable and they knew whatever, which is why it's so important to build a good relationship. And like you said earlier, if you're well known to be someone that cancels all the time, that's when it becomes an issue. But if you 99% of the time are solid, then when you are sick, people are much nicer.
Yeah.
You know, which may be why it was such an issue with that other bar, because I'd only played there once before. So maybe
you'd done a good gig and then...
Yeah, so maybe they didn't kind of realise that, like, I am always really reliable, you know.
You hadn't built that trust,
I hadn't built it up. So maybe, but with this one, anyway, I had a standby replacement because I said, look, I want to do the gig. I really want to, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be well enough to do it. So I have got a standby in case I'm not well enough to do it. And they were just like, that's completely fine. So obviously, if they didn't say it was fine, I would have done something else.
That wasn't also last minute and you didn't leave them high and dry.
Exactly. But
two different things.
On the day, so kind of last minute, on the day I woke up, wasn't feeling good. I sent them an email. Yeah. Yeah, I know.
That's like trying to do fire signals to some on the day of a gig, telling them you're not doing it by like posting a letter. I mean, I did my bit. I told them.
Yeah, exactly. No. Like, we only communicate through email. This venue, right? Okay, we don't have each other on social media or anything. I don't think they have social media. Like I say, I'm not naming any names, but. Maybe they do have social media, but I don't know. They've always just emailed me. They emailed to inquire about booking me and things. So, like, it's always just been an open email communication. So, anyway, I emailed them. They got back to me in like half an hour. I'm like, no problem. We hope you're feeling much better. Please let us know when you are better, and we'll book in more gigs with you and stuff. Yeah. That to me is the ideal response. Like, it's like, okay, they know I'm reliable. They know that I couldn't help, that I wasn't well. You get these circumstances, and that to me is like, I actively now I'm like, when am I free? When can I go and play for them? Because I want to do a really good gig. You know what I mean? Because and that's the difference. Whereas you get those other venues that, even though you would sort of, cross, heaven and earth to try and help them when, you can't make a gig, they just,
it doesn't get reciprocated.
Exactly.
Yeah, the wedding one is fun.
So we want to know what, because you said earlier.
I'll give my perspective on what I would have done.
100%.
I haven't ever got myself into that situation.
Oh, play the high and mighty card. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I'm not an idiot about taking bookings and stuff.
It could have happened to anyone.
It could have happened to anyone. As you get more experience, you kind of learn how the flow of things goes, right? And you don't really think about it, but you just see it enough times and you go, oh, that's how these things work. Mm-hmm. Weddings are not to timetable, probably more often than not. I think.
Agreed.
I think they slip and slide, right?
They do.
I wouldn't have known that when I was starting. I would have probably made this mistake towards like the beginning of when you're starting to do gigs and stuff.
Was the first that was the first wedding that I've done though. That I'm a lot newer. I want to point out to weddings and things than you are. Right. I've done the odd ones, but obviously, like this is my first year that I'm doing loads. You know,
yeah.
Like that is the first wedding I will say that I have done that has been like delayed by more than an hour. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I did give myself, like I say, 2 hours between them. So it's only a 35-minute, 40-minute journey. So in theory,
if all things were fair and equal, you would have been able to make
100%.
it. Things weren't, and often weddings.
Yeah.
My best wedding time slip, or kind of like not necessarily understanding the schedule between everyone, was I was doing a wedding in France last year.
Okay.
On say a Saturday night, and so I was booked to play a drinks reception in the afternoon for a couple of hours. Yeah. And later on for the evening party after the meal. A ravey set to get people going and stuff.
Yep.
The afternoon one was grand. It was a beautiful sort of like country house chateau place. We were out on the grass. It was beautiful. Nice. Did start raining. We were under a tent. That's fine.
Okay. Yep.
Actually, quite a nice, cozy atmosphere at that point because everyone was outside drinking, but it was like a bit of rain, so it was quite atmospheric.
It's France. It rains a lot.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. Northern France is basically like English weather a lot of the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So as then, I had actually been there the day before because I knew a couple of the guests.
Okay.
And they basically sorted it that I could stay with everyone for a couple of nights and try and make a little bit more of a think about it.
Amazing.
So I'd stayed on the Friday, done the afternoon drinks reception. Then we all went and had a little bit of time, sort of afternoon drinks after the ceremony and stuff.
Yep.
And then there was the meal, the evening meal. Yep. And I don't know if it's a specific thing to this region of France, a specific thing to France in general, a specific thing to more European weddings in general. But there was a lot more emphasis put around the meal and the importance of the meal.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Than there is about the rave afterwards. So
yeah.
They still have the rave afterwards. It still goes on to the wee small hours.
Yeah.
But in the UK, I think often after it gets past 6 o'clock, everyone is already starting to think about
the bar,
chasing a few drinks and having a dance.
Yeah,
that's how the British weddings typically go, right? There's obviously, a meal with speeches and stuff that'll go on. I'd say till 7. Yep. Everyone then races to the bar. They turn the room around. DJ or us come on, whatever. The meal was meant to be, I don't know, maybe 6 till 10.
Okay.
I think it was 7 till midnight. The meal. So a 5-hour multi-course.
Wow.
Because the wedding was half people from around here and half people from where the wedding was in France.
Right.
So there was enough guests there that would want the traditional
100%
longer meal and stuff.
Yeah.
This might have just been a complete one-off. I might not be seeing a trend from
no.
a wedding
I think
thing.
You are. When I did,
all the people from here were like sat at the meal going like, can we? Because I was due. I knew a few of them. I'd played a little bit earlier on. It was the afternoon thing went really well. Everyone was really into it.
Yep.
And I was like. Everyone was like, "Oh, Harry, go!" And we're still in the middle of the meal, and people are shouting across the room for me to go up and start. We're going to a different room. Everyone gets up, half the room ditches the meal, the other half. That is the weird. That's like the wedding falling apart.
Yeah, I did the wedding in Italy. last year with a friend of mine, Ben, and we went over with the band and played a wedding. And when we did the meal, it was the best thing ever. Like they had this old Italian kind of. It was all in the in like the Italian countryside.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like all the vineyards and everything. And then we were just in this like old building and they all had the meal. And it literally felt like a scene from like The Godfather. Like, all the like they were just eating the pasta and that. But like it was on for
beautiful
hours.
rolling hills.
Just hours of like them bringing more food and more
wine,
food. And I was just
wine.
like, wow. Like it was unbelievable.
They do it a bit differently. There's a bit more ceremony around the meal and stuff.
Okay.
So I was meant to do, I don't know, maybe 2:45 to 10 till midnight after the meal or whatever. It's already quite late for a meal to finish 10 anyways. Yeah. Finishes at midnight. And talking about doing silly things after wedding bookings. Yeah. My booking the next day was hosting a Claremont acoustic event.
Oh.
On the Sunday. So it's midnight in France on Saturday and I haven't started doing the evening wedding gig yet. And I'm due the same day, because it's now Sunday morning, to be hosting an event at Claremont on the Wirral.
See, that's akin to my having to be in Spain, like...
Yeah. I finished... Finished, I think I only did like a power hour, sort of midnight till 1,
Ooh.
Because everyone knew... Sorry, we got a bit of crackling again. Are we back in?
Yeah.
I think it's the booster on this.
Maybe.
So I played till about 1. I was sleeping in a tree house. That's another story. Went to the tree house, slept there until about 5 in the morning.
Right.
So I got 3.5 hours, something like that, of sleeping in a tree house, quality sleep, not exactly fucking, king size bed and that. It was cool. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
I woke up at 5 o'clock and then drove the 3 hours back to Paris BVA airport.
Mm-hmm.
So drove 3 hours in France that morning.
Got yourself a couple of speeding tickets.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, I got myself about €200 worth.
This entire podcast is like what not to do as a musician, like... honestly, but yeah, fair enough.
And I was getting paid a decent bit because it was a wedding gig.
Oh yeah,
but
it was just
I did just like go
pay the tickets,
whatever. Throw €200 at. Thing is, it was like 45 kilometers an hour in a 40. So
France, man,
that's like 32 in a 30 or something, whatever it is.
Don't think they have like the same.
There's no margins or anything. And it's all like automated cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
So I drove those 3 hours, got on a flight back to Manchester or Liverpool, can't remember.
Okay.
Then went and did that Claremont gig. So me saying that I wouldn't ever run my calendar in an insane way is not
Sometimes you've got to. And when you pull it off, it's so
sick, isn't it?
So
you do feel
and roll.
invincible.
Like I've had a couple where like I've been abroad, I've got back and done gone straight to gigs and stuff, and I've been like, for that moment you do feel like a bit of a rock star. You know what I mean? You're like, I've just flew in for this gig. You know what I mean?
Like helicopter landing on the lawn and stuff. Yeah.
But anyway, so my circumstance there.
What would you do? What would I have done in your situation?
Yes, yeah.
I would have made every possible contact with the bar. You said that you had only spoken to the agent.
Correct.
I would have social media messaged the bar as well.
In retrospect, that would have been a better idea.
Yeah, that's one thing.
It was hard.
I think I would indicate to the bride and groom that my understanding was around certain timing.
I did do that, yeah.
I had made another commitment with the assumption that I would have been able to get away at a reasonable amount of time with enough distance to get to that next gig.
No, I did tell them that. The response from the bride and groom was...
We don't care.
No, it wasn't we don't care. I'm definitely not bad-mouthing a bride and groom on the podcast. But they were kind of like, we're so sorry. We're sorry, but... you're not leaving because we paid you like close to £1,000 for this or whatever. It's like, you know what I mean?
That's so hard. Yeah. That is so hard because like you can express it to them, but how does it actually manifest in any change of situation?
Yeah. 100%.
I think the only thing that might have had a material impact was maybe DMing them.
Maybe.
I think that might have been the only thing.
Maybe. I think so.
You still not might have changed their reaction. You might have just been able to get there before they went, where the hell is this guy?
Yeah, maybe.
Because then they're starting at a level of anger,
But I still don't know whether the agency did tell them.
Do you still work with that agency?
I haven't spoke to them since. They only book me like very...
Okay.
Like not
it's
very
not
often.
A big percentage of
yeah.
That you get,
like so yeah, like I mean, I'm pretty sure like I've only done like 2 gigs for them or something. It's not like a really big. That's why I said
not half
like
of the work.
Yeah. So like as I say, it's not a very like common communication with them, but like I'm pretty sure that they did tell the venue, and I think the venue were just kind of, doing it to try and be like, where are you, to show their anger. I don't think it was a case of they didn't know. But I'm not sure. But, like, I'm going to go off that basis because if you let an agent know, like, 3.5, 4 hours before that you're not going to be able to, or it's very unlikely you can do a gig, I don't see a sort of circumstance where they wouldn't immediately get onto the venue. Like, there's an issue here. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's just because they came back quite declaratively going, we're not going to be able to get that covered.
Yeah.
That makes you
but
think
it was like,
that they might have just
even
not
try.
Even passed it on.
Like, it was like, that's what kind of annoyed me, was like, it was like there wasn't even, we'll see what we can do, give us half an hour. As an agent, that's kind of what your job is.
Placing musicians in gigs and putting out fires. It's
100%.
Not uncommon that people go, I can't do a gig on a day.
100%. You know what I mean? So, I will say, but the whole fiasco was just...
I think all you can do in those situations is try and be as communicative as possible. As much apologetic as is appropriate without being too apologetic, because if it's not really your fault because something happens, people might still, you might still get blamed if you're too apologetic where it doesn't really call for it.
Exactly.
Try and... One of the things that I think has helped both of us a lot to navigate some of the... There is calendar churn, right? So you take a series of bookings. Any musician at a certain level will prioritize more highly paid work. I think that's kind of just obvious practice.
Yeah, 100%.
But that might mean that you have to get some gigs covered, move some stuff around. There might be calendar churn.
Yeah.
One of the things that helps with that is one of the things that I've been really consciously trying to do over the last few years, particularly around some of the Claremont gigs, is build up my network of trustworthy musicians, my go-tos.
100%.
And I think getting a little gang of people who can sort of pull together and cover gaps and swap things out
that's it.
Is like such a useful
100%.
thing.
Yeah.
We couldn't do so much of the stuff without feeling that there was flexibility to change dates around for things.
100%.
And trust the people that you're putting in.
The thing is, like, it's a strange one for me, but like I feel like, as from our perspective in our career, is like, obviously beginning of the year, you get a lot of dates booked up with like venues, bars, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you get sometimes people message you saying, can you play a wedding or something like that? And the thing is, yes, sometimes you do swap a few things or get in touch with the venue and be like, is it okay if someone covers me because I've got this wedding coming?
And then in enough time in advance, when you build a relationship, showing you good over a long period of time, people are amenable to it.
They'll understand. Because the thing is, they've got to understand that, like, this is just like they're in their career, they're working their way up through hospitality or whatever. We're trying to work our way up through music. We're trying to, build our career. And the thing is like, that involves, like for me anyway, the way I see it is like for what we do, like the cover gigs and that, weddings, private functions, corporate is the gold standard of like, of
within the channel of the covers side of things.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah. You're not going to be playing
those are the higher ticket items and stuff.
Yeah. So I think that while we're trying to work our way up to that, there is going to be some times where you're in positions where like, okay, yes, I am pretty full on my diary with pub gigs, restaurant gigs, whatever. But then when you start getting offered these higher ticket, these gold standard, like weddings, like luxury things getting flown out abroad. I've just had one come in, which I told you about in Belgium.
Yeah.
So it's a birthday party for a guy in November.
And you already had a booking.
And obviously, like, it's over a couple of days going to Belgium. I've already got bars booked in.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm still waiting on, we're sorting things out. We've confirmed the price, but we're trying to work out an equipment roster for over there.
It's not confirmed.
I'm not taking my gear over there, so he's got to find the company to hire the gear in for me. So anyway, it's a whole thing. But I know that if that gets confirmed, I'm going to have to speak to the venues and be like, look, but
this has come in, we need to get stuff changed over.
And it's hard because it's like, it is hard because you've got to then tell a venue you've booked in a date. I'm sorry, you're going to have to find someone else. But you hope you have a good enough relationship with them where they understand he's trying to
the reason why he's good and like we book him is because they're constantly trying to progress and stuff. Exactly. So, and that's part of it.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be just still playing the same places for the same fees for the same times, like for your whole career. You know.
And the tricky thing that I'm coming across at literally right now is I've got a couple of venues that I haven't played before, that would potentially be new venues to have continued work at.
Yeah.
But since taking the bookings with them, there have been privates or weddings that have come in around the dates where I might be playing a new venue, and that's a really hard one to figure out what the right thing to do is.
For me, I'm mid-transition now, where I think that...
mid-transition?
Don't clip that bit out.
Yeah. So Connor's actually going to be able to offer you, for your wedding, he's going to call it the full package. And he'll be able to do gospel female vocals between 4 and 6, and then his normal stomp.
It's a male-female duo.
Yeah, the bearded lady.
Yeah,
for an extra 50 quid an hour.
100%. No, yeah, but like I'm mid, like sort of way between.
Carry on.
I'm midway between, obviously, like the whole pub thing and the private. So like now.
This is just going to completely derail now. I can feel it.
Yeah. No. But what I mean is, so like obviously I've mostly been a pub singer, like restaurants, bars, pubs, right? I've done that for like the past 10 years. Now I'm getting into the private. I've discovered that this is actually the side of the industry for me. It's not for everyone. Some people like being
right in the middle of it,
right in it in the bar with like, hundreds of people. Like, some people love that. For me, I'm discovering the private. For me, what I love. So I'm in this weird position now where anytime I get a private in, I'm prioritizing it.
Yeah, you have to. Well, it's better. They're generally better paid work. Obviously, the other argument to that is that a bar will take you regularly, and that over a period of time could be a greater earning for you.
Yeah, but you do reach a point.
But you do also get back-to-back private party booking. So if someone sees you at a party, they might book you for another party. So there is potential long-term work.
You also. The problem is, though, you also reach a point where a bar is going to be like, I like you, but I don't want to book you anymore because every time I book you and a private comes in, you're cancelling on us.
Yeah,
so you
just got to. It's hard. You can't do every cover. You can't swap everything.
For me now, it's like my focus for the next 12 months is like, obviously I'm getting more and more weddings privates, like where it's becoming a weekly thing now. My focus is basically just going to be now is to work my diary in such a way that, I've got the pub gigs, but I'm going to keep them midweek and stuff and try to
still ticking over,
try to keep most of my weekends just completely free because the privates are coming in all the time and hopefully reach a point, my personal goal, and we'll see how this progresses over the podcast and things, but my personal goal where I am right now is that like in a year, maybe a year and a half's time, is to mostly, I'll always play bars because I love them. Like I love the atmosphere and things, and they're a lot simpler, easier gigs. But my goal is to reach a point, hopefully, where I am
move away from the circuit gigs a little bit.
Mostly doing the private parties and events. You know, I can have a lot more time to focus on other creative endeavors like this through me week and stuff, and then do a couple of gigs on the weekends.
Yeah, it's everyone wants to work less and get paid more.
And we've got the events that we're obviously doing as well, which like we're going to grow over the next year. So hopefully, like, you know, if we start doing regular events, that's an income. You know, doing the private parties and the weddings is an income. You know, this maybe one day.
Yeah, if you get sponsorships and
exactly.
Stuff,
so like my idea is to just come away from that world, because I've done 10 years from like 18. I've done 10 years of just like having to do like 10 gigs, you know, and currently, you know, I live alone. Well, I've got my dog and my fish, but, you know.
That's not alone.
Yeah, I live alone, and I've got to run an entire house. I've got to pay bills. I've got to do, you know,
adult things
by myself. So I can't just go, right, okay, I'm not doing any, you know, whatever. Like,
you don't have the luxury of choice.
Yeah, exactly. But slowly as time goes on, as I say, I'm still relying right now on that security of the public gigs, but slowly but surely trying to build that repertoire of private events to get into just solely doing that. Yeah, that's my plan.
That's a good, nice little end point, I think.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as we go, we're going to be like dropping in loads of little stories from silly gig moments in the past. Make sure to give this a like and subscribe and all of those things, because we never actually really say any of those things on the main meat of the podcast.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, so what's going on this weekend? Tonight I'm in Heswall, nice little pub gig. I've got a fun little thing that I'm going to try out tonight, which is a wireless microphone adapter.
That's going to go terribly. I can see it now.
Well, I will report back.
I've tried the wireless stuff before. To be fair, it wasn't really expensive stuff. But
for my acoustic guitar, I hate it. Okay. The wireless acoustic.
Yeah.
Because it affects the acoustic tone too much. I've done a little test with just a normal mic, and it's been sound.
Okay, nice.
And I've got one of the best things that I've done recently is get my iPad to link to a Bluetooth dongle thing. You plug it in.
Yes, I've seen
and
that.
I can I can do my Spotify playlist or pick tunes or whatever from a distance.
Yeah.
I can just walk around doing it. It's really cool.
Nice.
So I'm going to try being able to do the same thing. Because if I can walk around doing announcements for a wedding with a wireless mic,
that is
people
cool.
want to do speeches, I can be part of that. Yeah. I can be part of the offering, whatever it is.
Get out in the crowd, singing.
Come on, you know the words.
Slut dropping.
Yeah. Well, I'm famously, you know, that's an additional service that I offer at my gigs.
Yeah.
And then I've got a couple of private parties over the weekend, playing Punch on Saturday in the afternoon in the courtyard. Then a 18th birthday house party Saturday night, and a 30th birthday house party on Sunday, Easter Sunday.
Nice. Okay.
I'm going to get 5 chocolate eggs, and that's going to be my food for the day.
Well, in you know, obviously a relation to that, I've basically took half of your gigs. Well, not really. I guess only one of them, but
Saturday night.
But so I mean, I'm off today again, avoiding the burnout, taking days off now. I'm you know,
learning.
I'm trying. I've got Monday off as well. Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, because that famous bouncing gig day of Monday.
Well, I normally always am playing on a Monday.
I know. And no one's there.
And I know. Well, that woman.
Oh, the woman who told you you're crap. Yeah, that happened. Anyway, what else have you got this weekend? Saturday.
That's a story for the next podcast.
You got an afternoon on Saturday.
So right, okay. So Friday is tomorrow. So Friday is I'm in Real.
Okay.
I'm playing some new place.
Let me know how it goes.
A friend of mine, really good. They've got some really fancy PA in there, like I think like a 20 grand ad-lib PA just installed, and they're putting live bands on and that. So playing in there before a band, I think, and then I'm playing back in Liverpool afterwards. So I got those two. Then on Saturday. Oh, it's a big one. I'm playing Matthew Street in the afternoon, nice sort of chilled one in Rubber Soul. Then I've got to shoot up to Chester, playing a private party in Chester. I wish I could tell you what the party was. That's really bad. I don't know.
I've done that before and rocked
they
up
all
and it's been
blare,
an 80th.
yeah, they
and
all,
then you go, what?
Yeah, they all blare, don't they? Because I know it's not a wedding.
Yeah.
I know it's a party, but then all the parties just blare into just one. So it's some kind of party. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing a private party, and then I'm playing for you in what was your gig before you had the private come in.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the Wilding for you in West Kirby. Sunday night, I'm playing, which is Easter Sunday. I'm playing 361.
Oh yeah, that'll be bouncing.
It will be bouncing. It was bouncing last week. I played there last week, and then
when it's heaving, that is a fun gig.
The opportunity came up to play again, and I was like, let's do
Sundays back to back, why not? Easter Sunday.
It's a Sunday night gig. It's not a bad fee, and it's quite a small, intimate venue, so you get that atmosphere when it's going. It's a really enjoyable gig, and I love it. And then
you're off on Monday, and
I'm off this Monday because I work every other Monday in this bar. It's like alternating. And then I'm off Monday, and then we'll probably be recording another
load of things
next week.
Yeah, go check out some of the little acoustic clips and stuff
100%.
we've been posting, playing some.
Give us some ideas.
Tunes. Comment some stuff. Comment any questions and stuff. We'll get to the point where we're reading some things out, going through some stuff that hopefully the listeners are.
We should do an appeal at the end of this, right? So that we're not having to like try and find questions online. If anybody is a musician who's watching, if you have either two things, right?
Funny story or a good question.
Funny story like that we can discuss and laugh at, and you don't mind that.
Yeah.
Or you have genuine like question, and it could be anything from getting into the industry, like if you're a beginner, to if you're more experienced, it might be things about marketing, getting into weddings, getting into parties, whatever. We get asked questions all the time. We're looking to try and get a list of things that we can slowly answer over the next couple of podcasts.
Yeah, we're also going to do some little clips that are just like general advice about gigging, like how to do a decent 100%. Set list and stuff. So it's got quite a lot of varied content coming up, hopefully 100%. Over the next few months.
So if you do have anything like that, then either comment on the video or DM me or Harry on socials, Instagram, whatever. And let us know your questions or your funny story. And we'll feature, and if we do feature the question or story, we'll tag you in the thing. Or
yeah. Give you a shout out. We're going to be getting more guests in and stuff. We've already got a couple in the can.
Yes, that's true.
We've got a couple more booked in, so some good stuff coming up.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll leave it there. Love you lots. See you in a bit.